She left the notary's office with the peculiar lightness that comes only after tension finally loosens its grip. The winter air felt sharper, cleaner, as though the city itself had been polished overnight. In her bag lay copies of documents she had read 3 times already, each reading failing to dull the disbelief. 2 apartments. A summer house. Her grandmother had always been deliberate, practical, never sentimental with money. Even now, the inheritance felt less like generosity and more like an extension of that same quiet logic. Still, relief hummed beneath her ribs. Security had weight, she could almost feel it settling. On the walk home, she rehearsed tones rather than words, casual but grateful, excited but not triumphant. She imagined her husband's raised eyebrows, her mother-in-law's surprised silence. She even smiled once, alone, at the thought of finally exhaling after years of careful budgeting. By the time she reached the house, her excitement had softened into something steadier. Anticipation, not exhilaration. The door opened without resistance. Voices carried from the kitchen, low, measured, the rhythm of conversation that assumes privacy. She might have announced herself, if not for the strange hesitation that arrived first, subtle and inexplicable. Something in the cadence, a tension where there should have been ease. She paused. Once everything is transferred, it's different, her mother-in-law was saying. Her husband's voice followed, quieter, edged with a dryness she didn't recognize. She won't know how to manage it alone. She's not that kind of person. A faint clink of porcelain. The soft scrape of a chair. We just have to be patient. The older woman continued. These things resolve themselves if you don't rush. The words did not land all at once, meaning assembled gradually, like fog condensing into shape. She stood motionless, her hand still on the strap of her bag, her mind refusing immediate interpretation. She trusts you. The mother-in-law added. A pause. Yes, her husband replied, not defensive, not conflicted, simply factual. The stillness inside her did not fracture into outrage or tears. Instead, an unfamiliar clarity spread, cold and precise. Thoughts moved without noise. Memories rearranged themselves, recent kindnesses, unusual attentiveness, small discussions about finances that had seemed ordinary at the time. She stepped back silently, closing the door with the same care one might use in a room where someone sleeps. Outside again, the air no longer felt clean. The afternoon passed in a state she would later struggle to describe. Not denial, not disbelief. More like a slow recalibration of reality. She sat in a cafe she barely registered, documents resting untouched beside her coffee, watching strangers move through lives that still appeared governed by simpler assumptions. Betrayal, she realized, did not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it unfolded as an administrative correction. She did not go home. Instead, she made a call. The lawyer's office was quiet, clinical, its neutrality oddly stabilizing. Papers were reviewed with professional detachment. Questions were asked without emotional inflection. Everything is legally yours, the lawyer confirmed. But ownership and control are separate considerations. The conversation remained practical. Protective structures, access limitations, asset management safeguards, each measure framed not as defense against specific people, but as standard prudence. The authority of procedure replaced the chaos of interpretation. By evening, signatures had been added, instructions formalized, permissions defined, control translated into documentation. The change inside the house was not explosive. No confrontation waited at the door. No accusations cracked the air. When she entered, both looked up with expressions rehearsed by habit, familiar, affectionate, unaware. She greeted them normally. Dinner proceeded with ordinary conversation. Weather, errands, minor inconveniences. The performance required less effort than she had anticipated. Perhaps because something fundamental had already shifted, she observed now from a distance invisible to them. Later that night, her husband mentioned finances casually, almost gently. We should probably sit down and plan, he said. She met his gaze. It's already handled. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. What do you mean? I met with a lawyer. Silence expanded, subtle but unmistakable. I've placed everything under independent management, she continued, her tone even, almost administrative. Access and decisions are restricted. The words did not accuse. They simply established fact. Her mother-in-law's posture changed first, a tightening, barely perceptible. Her husband stared. Why would you? It's standard, she said. The lawyer recommended it. The authority of that explanation settled heavily in the room. Not arguable. Not emotional, institutional. For the first time, uncertainty displaced confidence. No argument followed. Only a strained quiet, thick with recalculations neither voiced. In the weeks that followed, the household atmosphere altered in ways too subtle for outsiders to identify. Nothing visibly fractured, no dramatic scenes erupted. Yet warmth thinned, replaced by a careful politeness that felt more like coexistence than intimacy. Her husband grew quieter, her mother-in-law more distant. Trust, once invisible, had revealed itself as the true architecture of the home. Without it, everything still stood, but differently. Secure. Unsettled. Some evenings she caught herself remembering earlier years, searching for clues that might explain when affection had begun sharing space with strategy. No definitive moment emerged. Only ambiguity. She had protected what was hers. What she could not recover was the version of her life that had existed before she understood it needed protection.